Welcome back to Unfiltered Unspoken Podcast, where we told you we're going to continue to share life experiences. We have another amazing guest, Holly. Is it Hagg?
Yes, Hagg. Yeah.
Hagg. Okay. Holly Hagg, and she has a testimony to tell. We're going to ask Holly to come up and introduce herself, and then City Sid is going to kick off the first question.
My name is Holly Hagg. I have a website, thehealinghall.com, where I help people with holistic health get their life back, just like I have. And I watched my mom do for herself. And I'm here because I have a traumatic story, and I think there's power when you share your story, and it's taken me a long time to openly do that. But one, it helps other victims, and two, it takes away the power from the people that tried to take it from you in the first place. So thank you for having me
again.
Yeah.
Oh, of course. Thank you again for being here with us this evening. As we all do, or always do, we like to start off with knowing about our guest's beginning, the history. We want to know about those adolescent years, how you grew up, your family structure, and if you experienced any trauma in that time of your life.
Sure. My first actual memory was when I was 3 years old. I have some memories prior to that, based off of EMDR, but I don't know how accurate those are. But my first memory was when I was 3. My mom was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and my father had to take care of me more than he normally would have. I was the only child, and I was in the shower with him, and I saw his genitals, and I grabbed them playfully because I, had never. It just seemed like a fun thing to do as a 3-year-old, like, oh, what's that? And he had one of his hands he had damaged in working at the Alaska pipeline. So they're sort of crooked when they healed. And so he took those fingers and jammed them up my vagina in the shower. And I went to tell my mom, screaming and crying, and she didn't understand me, or she chose not to hear me. She was very sick at that moment. But that is my beginning. And my family, it was very much, you kept things quiet. You had to look a certain way. So I had to have blonde hair. I had to dress nice at church. I had to present myself that we were this happy family. My mom would paint the windows for the holidays. She would make all these goodie bags for the kids at school. She would be the team mom when she got her health back. She would be very active in my life in that way and looked like the super mom. So it was quite challenging for me, especially when I got older, because and they were both very intelligent. My parents were very intelligent. So it looked like our house was perfect, that my life was perfect. But it was far from it. It was far from perfect. And my father would belittle us. He would take things that were important to us and break them. He would be the strong, loud, disciplinary person in the house. My mom, a lot of times she would get upset with me over something really stupid, or like I got into the cereal when I wasn't supposed to, something silly, and she would wait till my father got home and have him discipline me hours later as a young child, which, if anybody takes the child development class, their mind. They forgot what happened. So I would be, he would call it spanking, but really I was beaten because I would have welts on my back and my butt. So he was scary. He was scary to me. But he was also my father, and part of me, I loved him still, despite the abuse. I didn't know not to. I wanted him to love me. I wanted him to care about me. He worked nights a lot. He was a truck driver, and so he oftentimes was not a part of my life outside of the house. Anytime we would try to go somewhere, it would be horrible arguments between my mother and my father, to the point where often I think she instigated them so she wouldn't have to go to the movies. She wouldn't have to go to the beach. But he would degrade her. So before she would be self-conscious looking in the mirror, does the swimsuit look good? And he would make sure to let her know that she didn't look good. So then she wouldn't want to go. So oftentimes I was taken by one parent. So either my mom went and took me, or my father he was a surfer. He would take me. But I would then not be supervised if my father took me. He would go surf, and I'd be a young child just left alone on the beach to fend for myself. So that is sort of the family structure. Right shortly before I ran away, he told me that we have to stop doing this. Like, it was a choice. Like, I had been some willing participant this entire time. I didn't know, because, like today, there's a podcast. There's so much awareness around abuse now. There was not when I was young. There was not. We had magazines. We did not have these cell phones. We did not have really access to the internet. Like, I don't even know when the internet became a thing, but it was, I grew up with Oregon Trails at school. Like, that's the extent of what computer time I got. So there wasn't even this awareness around abuse. And so, it took me a lot of therapy to even realize how bad the abuse was, because I minimized it. When I was 7 or 8, again, my dad was a tit for tat, just like he, shoved his fingers up me. We were swimming in our pool, and
Holly,
yeah.
can I grab you real quick? Sure. We're going to go back and forth. We don't want you
sure.
So we're going to go back and forth, and I'm going to come back, and we'll talk a little bit about that. And I want to say I'm proud of you through your healing journey, and my heart is just beating. I'm sorry you had to go through that. But your testimony is going to help so many. So if we can go back to childhood, do you remember when the abuse started? At what age, and did it progress and escalate?
I was 3. It was that. My first memory is that shower. And I have a memory that has stuck with me forever. And this is sort of this doesn't have to do with the abuse, but I was in a crib, in a onesie, and a lamp. At least I thought the lamp said, "You're going to be okay." And forever I've thought that was God telling me I was going to be okay. And I had no idea what I was in for. But that has stuck with me my entire life, whatever that was, whatever explanation people want to put on that. But I was 3. It escalated in that my father needed control. He didn't have control. My mother manipulated. She manipulated, and she would look like the victim, though. I mean, and she was the victim, but she would look like the victim without her part, right? And only the people that were in the household would really see how it all played together. But I didn't even realize she was abusive until much, much older, until I was an adult. But he would ask me to lick his penis. He would want me to rub my vagina on his leg. He would say, come cuddle with me. And that was, come rub yourself on me. I would catch him in my bathroom. So I had my own bathroom, and I'm positive, I didn't know what masturbation was back then, but I'm assuming what he was doing in there. He had his own separate bedroom from my mother. I have no memory of them ever sleeping together. I called it the dungeon because when he would have to work nights, he took this like silver film and put it all over the windows. So it was completely dark in there, and it smelt because the window is never open. And so he had a twin bed in there, and he would sleep in that room. That was his room. And so I would wake up. I didn't feel safe when I'd go to sleep, because whenever he wanted to touch me, he did. So there was never a safe space at my house. He took me camping one time and molested me. We had a camper shell on the back of the truck, and he molested me in there. And I remember a man walked by and like made like, woohoo, like, way to go. And then the man saw my father take me out when I needed to go to the bathroom. And the man got mad and said, whoa, what are you doing? And then my dad, of course, because he was so smart, he just talked his way out of it. Like, we were just play fighting. You're gross. That was the closest I ever came to being saved by somebody else. That man. But I didn't know I needed to be saved. So, and he was escalating in his violence, like when he drowned me in the pool. I don't think he intended to kill me, but I did. I died for however long I was not breathing. And
Holly, so can we grab you for a second? Sid, I know you have a question. Go ahead. I think Sid just, okay.
Okay, I'm sorry. My connection was glitching a little bit. I do want to ask, because the way that you worded something earlier that you said about when you told your mom, you said that she acted like she didn't know what you were talking about, or she acted as if she didn't know what you were talking about. So that kind of tells me you were given, that you probably spent some time thinking about how all of that went down, in her reaction or lack thereof. What maybe gave you the impression that, she was just kind of sweeping it under the rug, or that she, was conscious of what was actually going on, or that you were telling the truth?
It honestly took me, my EMDR therapist, in my early 30s telling me that my mom knew, for me to understand that she knew. And then in processing all of the abuse, I had to go back to all of those moments that didn't feel right, where maybe I did try to say something or I thought she saw something. And I had to be truthful with myself that she did know. She did know. And there was also a report that when my grandmother passed away, my aunt had went through all of her paperwork and she had journals. She had journaled every day of her life. And my third grade teacher had reported my parents for possible abuse. And I don't remember that. I remember being interviewed, but I thought I had, issues with reading. So I thought it had to do with that. I never remembered it being about anything other than that. But my parents had prepped me that it would be about my mom, how devastating it is for my mom to have MS. And so the report, that's what it read, that I was having issues in school due to the fact that I was having a hard time with my mother having multiple sclerosis. Even though I was so little in third grade, I didn't really understand what that was. I just knew she was sick. So I thought I was clear when I told her that what my father had done. When I was little, I was angry with her because she didn't protect me. But then when I had children myself, I realized that a 3-year-old trying to say what happened could be misinterpreted because it's coming from a 3-year-old's words, a 3-year-old's vocabulary. And then when I got sick myself with multiple sclerosis, I realized that was the sickest my mother was, how depleted I was, how sick I was. So what energy she would have even had to give to me during that time, I think she didn't know what to do. She was sick. She relied on my father for income. Both of my parents have their own trauma that they obviously brought into their marriage that then brought to me. So it's so complex when you have generational trauma because, it just takes one person actually working through it and doing the work and feeling to change the outcome for the next generation. It's that simple. It really is. It's not simple. It's hard work. It's not the easy route, but yeah, I was devastated when I came to the realization that my mother, she knew, and she didn't protect me. In fact, when I ran away, I ran away to my boyfriend's house. It was the first person that I met that I knew that he was being beat by his father. His father was an alcoholic. And so I bonded with him over that. And so that's where I ran. I ran to his house at age 12. And the mom locked me in the bedroom with my boyfriend and said, don't open the door because the father was home. And then my boyfriend said, if he breaks through the door, I want you to go out the window and run. And so the mom then took my mother. They went back to the house and confronted my father. But when I had told my mother, I had told her 3 days prior to that, I broke down at a softball tournament. She told me I couldn't go to my friend's house, and something just snapped. I was always the good girl. I was the nice girl. I was considered boy crazy, but that would be the only negative I would say that was attached to me at the time. And she took me in the car, and because I got mad, I yelled, I called her all these names, which was out of character for me. I ran up this mountain that had a bunch of rattlesnakes. My coach had to come get me to bring me down. And then I told her I didn't want to be in trouble, and then I told her my father's been molesting me. And so then she took me to this park, this local park where we lived, and asked me all these questions. And then she called my grandmother, because we had one of those ridiculously large, if you remember the original cell phone, she had one for emergencies. So she called my grandmother on that. And then she put me back in the house so that she could get a paycheck. My father got paid on Wednesday. So she was originally going to take me to my grandmother's house, and I was scared. So I was like, no, I just want to stay at the house. But it shouldn't have been an option in my mind. So she wanted me to stay in the house with my father for 3 more days so she could get paid. And I understand the situation she was in at now. It's really hard to not be protected, and to think that money, even though I understand there needed to be some strategy, today I feel like I was sold, like my safety was worth that one paycheck. And that hurts. It still hurts. I can do all the therapy in the world, and it still hurts.
Holly, is your dad still alive?
I think so. I don't know. I confronted him when I was 19. I went to his house, and then when I had my first child, I don't know. I had postpartum depression really bad. I hadn't had any real good trauma therapy. And so I had to see him. So I went, and my husband at the time, and my first child, which was a boy, I thought, oh, that'll be safe. I won't let him out of my sight. I went and saw him again, tried to, I don't know. I don't know. It didn't make sense. I was trying to see if I should be scared anymore. See what, see if he would say he was sorry. See what type of person he was. I thought I mattered to him, even though he had abused me my whole life, but it was quite apparent I didn't. And then I'd call him a couple more times in my lifetime, and the last time I spoke with him, and I got a letter. I'd asked if he could. He's very well off, him and his new wife, and I asked my husband and we were struggling at the time, and I asked if I could get a loan, right? Not I want your money, not blackmail like he tried to paint it out to be. Can I get a loan to help us with our bills? My son was in the NICU for 3 months. I was in the hospital for half of a month, and I get a letter from them threatening to take me to court if I say anything about what happened. For
how can they threaten to take you to court about
defamation of character for saying that he molested me when he did?
So his wife believes
he did? That because he's of the Baha'i faith, and so he's very tapped into he's painted this whole world of who he is, but and I don't know, how do you hide that? I can't believe that he has hid who he really is this entire time with her.
Do you think you're the only kid that he's done this to?
No. I did until I did 7 years of EMDR, and 4 of it was with a really good therapist. And I have memory of being jealous of, I don't know who it is though. It might have been one of my cousins when they visited from Michigan. It might have been a friend, but he took her into the dungeon with him and closed the door. And so I for sure think, and I mean, my family has, there's layers. If I told you all the layers, it's sickening, but this is how these things happen. You think, oh, this is an isolated incident. It's just my father that's abusive. No, when you have these family structures, it's oftentimes many of the family members, like it is with my family. I don't know what happened. I know my grandmother, my father's mother, she had postpartum depression after having my uncle, and she tried to send my father and my uncle on a bus. And so my grandfather had her put into a mental asylum, fried her brain, and she was then deemed mentally retarded. I don't know the proper term today, but she was mentally retarded. She could not think for herself. She had challenge. Thank you. She had to go into a facility for the rest of her life because she could no longer take care of herself. And my grandfather did that. And so my grandfather was in the military, so he put the boys both in foster care and separated them. And from what I know, my uncle got a decent home. My father, I don't think, did. And I don't know. What I know is that my uncle fits to a T. If you've seen the documentary of the Boy Scouts, that he fits that. So I don't know if both of them had abuse. I don't know if my father abused him. I don't know if my grandfather had something to do, but I know that my uncle took boys. He had no children, and he volunteered often to take them on hikes. He is no longer with us, but it just makes me sick thinking about how it all, I mean, for me, I have an investigative mind, so I wanted to know, why did it happen to me? Where did it start? Why did it need to happen? And so I tried to answer those questions by looking up the history of my family, and it was horrible. I mean, today, as much as because of therapy, I have compassion for the people that hurt me, because I realized they were just injured people that hurt more people. I don't know if my father hurt other people because I never physically saw it, but I remember that. I remember it through EMDR. Surfing. I think he might have been targeting other people, but it's such a vague memory. It's not solid, so I don't know. When you do EMDR, it's so suggestive. I don't trust those memories, is how I'm going to phrase that. But I for sure think I don't think I was alone. And people like him, you can't just turn that off, especially if you don't get help for it. You don't just turn off being a monster and being attracted to children. And we could say it was convenience because I was the child and I was there in the home, but I don't think so with him, unfortunately.
What was my question here? When you said earlier that you got approached, I believe you said by your father, saying that like we can't do this anymore, type of thing. What kind of mind frame did that put you in? Did that further lead you to believe that this, was your fault? Something that maybe was mutual with you? What type of feelings did that kind of drum up? Did you think that it was, partially your fault before that? Did it make you believe that? Just what kind of mind frame did that put you into, being as though it's not accurate, at all? Like it's not the story at all. Like what did that do for you?
I had so many emotions rushing through me when he said that. One, I didn't really understand that I was being abused. So I need that. It's hard to believe hearing my story that you didn't know you were abused, but I did not know I was being abused. I didn't have a name for what he was doing to me because back then, it's not like today. It's so hard to take the time frame, right? Like that. Back then, you weren't allowed to cuss on TV. You couldn't have bad language on music. Like it was a different time. So there was not a lot of awareness around sex. There wasn't a lot of an awareness, at least for me. I mean, I don't know. I lived in San Diego, so in that area, there was not a lot of awareness. Which is probably a more loose area too. It's more relaxed and more just because we're so close to the beach and stuff. But I was not aware of maybe the things I should have been, because my mom was very much a helicopter mom, so she guarded me probably to keep the secrets that I didn't know I needed to keep. But I was angry. I was confused. I was hurt because it was like he didn't want me anymore. If that makes sense. It was so routine. Cuddle with me. I knew what that meant. It was like you train a dog to go get a treat. I was trained to go to him when he said that. I would fight back throughout the years when he would touch me inappropriately, and I remember getting really angry, like, don't touch, that's my butt. Don't touch, that's my body. trying to defend myself in those small ways. But that wouldn't always happen. I wouldn't always get triggered that way to try to protect my body. And so I started, that's how I found out, actually. There was a girl I went in 7th grade, a girl I went to school with. She was, I want to say it was, Mormon maybe? I don't remember. But it was some different religion than mine. I'm a Christian, and there was a pamphlet that I don't remember the religion. It might have been Mormon. It might have been something else, but there was a pamphlet and it talked about sex, and she was passing it around. Everybody got to take it home, basically. And everybody was like, oh, what's that? And so when I took it home, the term molestation was in there, and I finally had a word to what was happening to me. When I was little, I would envision like this big ball inside of me that was gross. So there's a part of me that felt like it was wrong. At a very young age, I was able to orgasm. So I didn't know what that was, but it felt good. It tickled. I believe I told my dad, oh, that tickles, but I didn't understand what it was. And I didn't, so when I was we were in the hallway right before entering my bedroom after he had just molested me again, and we have to stop doing this. And I was so confused because it was as if I had a choice. Like that statement right there was as if there was some choice that I could have opted out. I didn't know I had a choice. I didn't know I could not participate. So it was more, I remember I felt pain, I felt anger, and I was confused.
I want to ask if the way you feel, if you could say something to your dad right now, what would you say to him?
Honestly, like all the rage that I had, I've worked through a lot of that. But I honestly, I would say that I hope you heal. I hope you face your own demons. I hope you find the actual God that loves you, and that you don't have to live with the pain that obviously you have, because you vomited it all over me. You affected my life, my entire life. I've spent probably, I added it up. I probably have spent close to almost $100,000 or more in therapy. Without insurance, it'd be close to $300,000. This is the legacy that you left me, and I had to pay for it. And then you threw my name into the mud as if it was my fault, as if I was crazy for what you did to me. How fair is that? I know you're not capable of loving yourself, but God is, and somehow I still care. And I hope you heal. That's what I would want to say before you die. If you're alive.
Now, with the ages of which this was taking place, as you are, growing up, learning more about what actual sex is, just have an actual understanding about it. What are you consciously realizing is like going on to you or with you? What are the thoughts that you have now surrounding what's happening to you? Once you are really able to kind of put a face and a name to, the act of what is going on.
I honestly, and because sex ed, it's about when you're 12, right? So this is when things are shifting and I'm finally digesting what has actually happened to me. It didn't fully sink in. I just knew I wanted it to stop. My period starts around this time too. So my father went shortly before that and got a vasectomy. I don't know if that was because of what he had planned for me or if it truly was. And I don't even remember what age he got that vasectomy, but I always in the back of my mind think, was that because he was going to do more? That's my thought. And he was escalating that way because the older I got, he had tried to put his penis in my underwear and wanted me to rub on it, which he had never done before that. And so I'm very good at picking up micro cues, probably because of needing to survive my family. But I did start to notice I had a boyfriend during that period, a different boyfriend, other than the one I went and ran away to. And I noticed my father didn't like him, that there was friction. He lived a couple blocks from me, so he would come after he had soccer practice or whatever and hang out in the front yard. And I just felt super uncomfortable when my father was home and they had any interaction, and my father would be very aggressive in the way he spoke to him. And it made me so uncomfortable. I ended up breaking up with that boyfriend because I thought, I don't want anything to happen, because it just seemed that there was this underlining current of rage from my father. And my boyfriend could pick up, like, he didn't like my father, so he was scared of him. And it wouldn't be until really I just sort of I stuffed it in a box. I would write poetry about it, but I didn't really give it much thought. I didn't get good therapy after it happened. The first therapist I went to said she didn't deal with my type of issues. As I'm telling, like, this is the very first person that I'm telling what happened to me. And she stops me and says that she doesn't deal with my type of issues. So I'm thinking at age 12 that my situation is really bad and I shouldn't share it with people because this therapist doesn't even want to hear it. And I could see the horror in her face. So I don't know what type of therapist she was, but she was not appropriately geared to hear my story. And then the second therapist I had, I do believe he made the news at some point, but he was a predator himself. So in therapy with him, we never talked about my father, other than I believe you. That's all he really said about my father. He showed me, I watched videos that would be considered porn. In a book, an anatomy book, he showed me how to please myself. He gave me little pills in a Ziploc baggie that I thankfully never took. I don't know what they were. They were little white pills. Take me out to ice cream, started buying me gifts, told me that he gets real close with his clients, that he just delivered one of his clients' babies. So that's the therapy I got, and I didn't want anything to do with it. So to answer your question, even though it's hard to believe, I stuffed it away. I didn't think about it. After that, I said I didn't want any more therapy, that I was fine. I was not fine, but I thought I was. I convinced myself I was, and I didn't know I wasn't fine until I became an adult, started to try to date, started picking really bad partners. Thought, man, I'm just meeting all these bad men. At some point, I realized I had a pattern and realized that I was part of the problem. And it wasn't until it was too late, because I married one of those and had a child, that I realized, oh my gosh, I need to go get therapy. So to answer your question, I was 24 years old when I realized really the extent of what happened to me, and that's when I thought about it. Because I just didn't want to think about it.
I want to ask, how are you mentally doing now because of everything that you have been through?
I'm so much better. So much better. I've done, I have an entire bookcase of self-help. Therapy alone did not help me. It was a piece. EMDR was hard. You have to relive what you went through. It's hard. And I had to take breaks from that. I'm good. I'm good. I followed holistic health practices when I got diagnosed with MS. So I learned a lot of strategies. I realized that I was stuck in fight or flight, that my nervous system was completely fried, that I was just completely broken down. And so I started to do some vagus nerve work, tried to retrain because I could barely function. Like, I go to a store, a scent, a sound would trigger, like the shuffle of the bag, putting the groceries in the bag. And then I would just constantly have this adrenaline go. Adrenaline, high alert, like you're in danger. And so I used breath work to retrain my body to not respond that way. But it took, I love Byron Katie. She has Loving What Is, and she has her worksheets. Ho'oponopono is a Hawaiian practice. The Bible. I read the Bible. I leaned into the words of healing, praying. So I'm good. I'm a lot better. People that meet me don't know what I've been through. And that actually bothered me. I don't know why. I just feel like when you go through what I've been through and you make it out the other end, it's not that I want people to know, because it's like, oh, well, I have this new life, right? People don't know. They don't know. But then there was a part of me that wanted them to know, because it was actually in Bible study. The person that was putting on the lesson said, well, there's nobody here like that, because they think they were referring to the Epstein files, or, we don't have to worry about that here. There's nobody like that here. And that hit like a knife. in my heart because I felt like an imposter, because I knew there was somebody there like that. There was somebody that had been through, and I survived the story of my father, but then there's me. There's me that was in the reel of trying to make sense of my life, trying to fix my life, putting myself in dangerous situations, multiple rapes as an adult. So it's the trauma didn't end there. And that was the gift my father gave me, is this pattern that then I was in. I didn't know how to get out of. But I can say I've been married for 17 years now. I have 2 children with my current husband. That was actually the boy next door. We grew up together. He remembers the police coming, but he thought it was the rental house next to us, not our house. But oftentimes it was our house, from my father yelling so loud. And so I'm stable, but the ripple effect, like those wounds are there. They're there. They're in me. I can cry about them still. I can be upset about them. I can talk about them now pretty much without breaking down. So that's an improvement. But sometimes it's hard. So when life gets rough, when there's things that happen in my current life that are hard, it compounds it, because I've always had to dig deep to survive. So in one sense, it has made me strong and resilient, and I'm still here. But that's also exhausting. That's exhausting to have to fight your whole life. And so while I would say I'm out of the constantly in the fight, mode, it can still fester a little bit when something hard happens to my life now. And I have to remind myself of the tools I have, of the tools I've learned. I have to practice self-love. I have to go out in nature, do the things to take care of myself. So it's extra work to be stable.
Understood. We're almost at time. I can't believe we've almost hit an hour. Holly, I want to thank you for being a guest on Unfiltered Unspoken Podcast. I could see the struggle through the podcast. So you continue your work and keep sharing your message. I want to ask, what advice would you give to someone from your personal life experience to help them along their journey to healing?
There were many times I wanted to give up. I didn't think I was worth living. I didn't think I was worth doing the work or the investment, because I literally had nobody saying that I was. It was just me. I always say, if you have breath, God still has a purpose for you. And I 100% believe that. And it might seem hard in the moment, but there is another side. There's a peace to life, and I have found that peace. I find that, but you have to put some effort into yourself. You have to learn how to love yourself. Inner child work was huge for me. Just imagining my younger self and me being the protector now as the adult for the child that didn't get the protection. That is some powerful work you can do. But don't give up on yourself. Learn to love yourself, learn to be attached to yourself. And that's probably the hardest work I actually had to do, not healing what other people did to me, but actually finding who I was despite them trying to mute me, right? To silence me, to not be who I was intended to be. So that was probably the hardest work I had to do, was get to know myself and to love myself and to accept that I don't need that father that hurt me and abused me. I got one right here. He was always here. He was always protecting me, and he always loves me. So that was probably Matthew, I think it's Matthew 5:14, that we are the light with Jesus in us, right? And so I live by that. I'm the light. I am love. I try to live my life with that in mind. And don't give up on yourself or your journey. And in your power, your voice is your power. If you were silenced, your voice is your power. I started doing these podcasts because there is purpose in your pain. There's purpose in your pain. You can help others get out of theirs. They think they're stuck. You're not stuck. You're not stuck. You just have to trust yourself. You have to get in tune with yourself so that way you can follow that intuition, that inner guide to get you to a better place.
Well, thank you again for being here with us this evening. As we do with all of our guests, we like to give you a chance to participate in shameless plug. So you see all of your information scrolling across the bottom here. If you can let our viewers know, for one, where they can maybe reach out if your story has resonated with them. If there is anything that you have, for sale, anything you want to draw traffic to, any projects or things that you advocate for, you have the floor to share with everyone.
Okay, thank you. I have a website, thehealinghall.com. You can find all my plugs there. I influence right now, so it's mostly on Facebook. I'm under Holly Hagg, and I don't sell anything, not even myself right now. I am a health coach, but I pulled away a little bit. I just influence right now, even though you can go to my website and see that I'm there. But I am an advocate for good health. I am an advocate for, and that includes mental health. And so I believe that nutrition and diet and piece of like your mindset, those are huge and powerful tools. And so I am part of a group that tries to help the community in that way. So every day I do reels to try to help with your health, to cut through the noise. It's how I found my health. It's how my mother found her health for a short time. But healing is possible. And I went from barely being able to walk, a numb face, to I'm vibrant and healthy. So, and I believe trauma is attached to disease. So, when you work through that, your body should start to rebalance, and you'll feel healthier. But I don't sell anything right now. And I do that on purpose because this is my way to give back. Part of my purpose.
We want to thank you for tuning into Unfiltered, being a guest on Unfiltered Unspoken Podcast and sharing your testimony. We appreciate it. And we're going to keep sharing life experiences, ain't we? All right. Everyone have a blessed day. We'll tune in each and every Monday at 8 p.m. ET.